Okay, people. So, as part of Studio Canal's vintage classics, you know, imprint, they will be re-releasing the 1951 film "Cry the Beloved Country." Right, they have remastered it for 4K and it will be released on the 9th of October on Blu-ray and DVD. Okay, so this film was directed by Zoltán Korda. It was written by Alan Paton and John Howard Lawson, and it's actually adapted from Patton's 1948 novel of the same name. The film is produced by both Korda and Patton. The music was handled by Raymond Gallios Montalban. Robert Krasker was on cinematography. David Eddy edits the piece. Wilfred Shingleton, art direction. Costume design is Maisie Kelly. Hair and makeup, we've got Peter Evans and William Bell. Production management is Jack Swinburne. Okay, so our cast, we have got Reverend Stephen Kumalo, played by Canada Lee. Charles Colston is played by plays James Jarvis. Right, his wife Margaret Jarvis is played by Joyce Carey. Who else do we have? His son Arthur Jarvis is played by Henry Blumenthal. Right, we then have got Reverend Msimangu, played by Sidney Poitier. There's Father Vincent, played by Jeffrey Keane. Mary, played by Vivian Clinton. Martens, played by Michael Goodleaf. Mrs. Kumalo is played by Albertina Temba. Stephen's brother John Kumalo is played by Edric Connor, and his son Absolom is played by Lionel Nogakan. There's Sibiku, played by Charles McRae. Captain Jasvald, played by Bruce and Meredith Smith. Frank Smith, played by Bruce Anderson. And Gertrude, right, Stephen's sister, played by Ribbon Dalamani. So, yes, the gist of the story is this, right? In his last role on screen, the outstanding Canada Lee plays Stephen Kumalo, a hard-up Zulu priest who journeys from a small village in rural South Africa to Johannesburg in search of his missing son and sister. The findings of this good man come as blows one by one. First, that his sister is a prostitute, and then that his son has been arrested and sentenced to death for the shooting of an important white man. Back in the village, Jarvis, a rich white father, indifferent to the injustices imposed by the apartheid, hears of the murder of his son. Through this tragedy, Jarvis learns that his son was a great activist opposed to the oppression of Black South Africans, and thus comes to have a new understanding of their struggle. So, adapted by Alan Paton from his renowned classic novel of the same name and directed by Zoltán Korda. This is the story of two men from very different backgrounds who are united through the tragic deaths of their sons and whose extensions of the hand of friendship to one another eventually brings a hope of peace among the bitter turmoil of South African society. So yeah, now this was shot in South Africa, right? And like the craziness is because of apartheid, right? So Lee and Portier had to pretend to be servants of the director. These, white people and black people not meant to associate. Right. So that was the only way they could do it, which is just crazy. It's crazy. And I think with this film, you know, you have to think about when it was made, right? Because looking at it now, you just think, hey, there's a lot of things that happen, right? Like the change in the father. For me, it was like Monsters Ball, right? And I know I've referenced that film so often, right? Billy Bob Thornton, racist, meets Halle Berry, and all of a sudden he's changed, right? And we see no actual transformation. We don't see it. People don't just boom change, right? It's a process. So it's not saying someone can't, but it's a process, right? And so, is a similar thing with this. The father just suddenly change, read some letters and suddenly changes. And it's just like, no. If you thought a certain way, and especially then, right, when the norm was segregation, you're not suddenly just going to change like that. But, as I said, this was made during those times, you know so it's like trying to show what could be possible. Like, people weren't really doing that. So the fact that Patton did that in his book, I mean, that is pretty big. That is a big thing. You know what I mean? It's like a lot of when you look at the techniques used in this film, right, like to show it's like stoicism and fear, and it's just a character doesn't say anything when asked questions. You're like, what happened? And then just like look into the distance and shake a little, right? That's meant to show it, and you're just like, okay. But again, it's a film very much of its time, right? Made in 51, so like you're watching it and the sound is very up and down, you know, but yeah, you didn't have the same equipment and understanding and knowledge back then around, sound and lighting, cinematography, just all of these things. Right. So yeah, it's hard to look at it and without just being like, I mean, it's kind of goofy in places. We have that classic one of people just being like, I think I'm dying. Now I'm dead. Right. Which you're just like, yeah, no, that doesn't happen. It doesn't go down like that. But just, just it feels like Little Women, just, all of those things. That's what people did. Right, we see that in this film, but it's highlighting issues. Right? That's the big thing with this film. It's highlighting these issues, right? Desegregation, the effect of apartheid, right? The fact that they went from the village thinking Johannesburg, this big place, right? Life must be better. And then you realize, oh, life is not better there. Not better at all. Ooh. right? It's people's perceptions on things, black and white. All of that is there. And I think, during that time, during 51, it is as I said, look, it's a big thing to show these things, right? Like now, like this wouldn't really cut it wouldn't cut the mustard. You just think, man, it's not really, I mean, capturing what this was. It's not really showing, right, how like tough it would be in that situation. It's not really doing that. But in 51, these were huge steps. I mean, this was incredible to do this kind of thing. So I think, yeah, you have to be very conscious of that when looking at this film, because it's easy to scoff and judge without thinking about the constraints of that period, especially shooting in friggin' South Africa. That's like, I mean, I don't know if you'd get me going to do that, right? Just the fear of what possibilities could go down, is kind of crazy. Is kind of crazy. But yes, Studio Canal are bringing this to Blu-ray and DVD. So on the special features, there's a interview with Canada Lee from Mona Z. Smith, right? An interview from 1990 with Lionel Nguyen, who plays Absolom in the film. There's a featurette called In Darkest Hollywood. Another African mirror footage of the world premiere. There's something with Alan Paton, right? And behind the scenes stills. So you get all of that, right? So the DVD is 91 minutes. The Blu-ray is 96. There will be subtitles on it. So yeah, I mean, if you like your old school films, you like looking at these in that historical context, right? And seeing classic actors like Canada Lee, Sidney Poitier, Charles Carson, and the likes, then yeah, you may want to pick this up, people. Right, as mentioned, it will drop on the 9th of October. Right, that is, I think that's a Tuesday, if I remember correctly. Dum dum dum. No, it's Monday. Monday, the 9th of October. So yes, the links for the DVD pre-orders will be on the website, right? So yeah, there you go. That is, Cry the Beloved Country. 1951 film, people. Remastered 4K. So yeah, mark it down. 9th of October. And a little bit of history for you people. A little bit of history.